round of applause. I'm talking. What a smooth, calming effect. Absolutely. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, and we are calling our meeting to order here. We're in the heart of Old Town Conyers at 901 in the Assembly Hall here, and we're calling our, by the way, this is one of our regular scheduled Board of Commissioners meetings. We've got a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in Rockdale County, a lot going on in the state of Georgia, and a lot going on in America. And guess what? We're here. And Rockdale is resilient. We're going to rock and roll and move forward. We have a pretty robust agenda this morning. We're going to kind of move a few things around because there's some folks here just for a few particular presentations, and then we're going to allow for an opportunity for transition for those folks to exit and make it back to work in their offices, and then we'll move forward with the remaining of our agenda this morning. Also, I want to make sure for those folks who are interested, sometimes there's some folks attending for the first time, they don't know the protocol and procedures of these meetings. If you are interested in public comment, I want to encourage you to participate in public comment. We want to make sure that you can get a red comment card from the vestibule, or one of our public relations members of our staff will point you in the right direction. We will afford everyone the opportunity to have their public comment. We want to hear from you. So just want to make sure I said that, and we're going to conduct a very orderly and smooth meeting, as we often do, and we'll move forward. So I want to, again, we're calling our meeting to order, and we have our friend, Bishop William Lee from Victorious Life Church here with us to lead us in invocation. Bishop Lee, come on up. You can make your way through that tight crowd there. Y'all let the bishop out. Y'all give the bishop a round of applause as he makes his way to the microphone. I don't take it for granted that we live in a county where we can start our political meetings, our government meetings, with the word of prayer and invocation. That's a blessing by itself, to be able to live in a country, and particularly in a county. Let me say this, because every county and city doesn't operate this way. But to be able to start our meetings with invocation every time we open up our meetings is a blessing. Bishop, so glad to have you, and so appreciative of the wonderful work that you and your congregation over at Victorious Life are doing here in Rockdale to support all of what we do for our citizens. Let's hear from the bishop.
Thank you very much. If ever a time we are in need of God's help, now is that time. So thank you for the invitation. Let's bow our heads as we go to God. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to gather together. Thank you for the gift of another day. Thank you for life, health, and strength. Thank you for your protective hand that has covered us, guided us, and strengthened us, even during these crisis times. We lift up your people today, God, throughout Rockdale County, throughout Georgia. And we pray that your hand of grace, mercy, and kindness would be upon us. We pray, dear Father, that you would grant us, as we come together, the wisdom of Solomon and the tongue of the learned.
Amen.
That you might direct us and help us. We pray today for our brothers and sisters in the Sunshine State of Florida. We ask that you, dear Father, would speak to this storm. We pray that you would downgrade it, God. But if that be not your will, we pray that you would cover your people as they go through this crisis time. Now be with us, dear Father. We ask your help in resolving issues, struggles, and problems throughout our county, throughout our state, and yes, God, throughout our nation. We thank you for hearing us, and we believe that it shall be done, for we ask it in Christ's name. And everyone said, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you once again to Bishop William Lee, Jr., Victorious Life Church. here in Conyers and Rockdale County. We have over 300 churches, and government alone cannot take care of the people by itself, and we certainly do appreciate the support of our faith-based entities throughout Rockdale County. As I stated, I will be shifting a few things around here at the top of our meeting right before we get into the heart of our business. In respect for the time and talent of our employees from various offices, I'm going to start in order with a presentation from our Domestic Violence Awareness Month presentation. The Honorable Alicia Johnson, our District Attorney in Rockdale County, will be leading that. Come on up, Madam DA. Let's give our DA a round of applause. Absolutely.
Well, thank you all so much. Good morning, Chairman Nesbitt,
Good morning.
Commissioner Washington, and Commissioner Williams. It is truly my honor to present today in commemoration of National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October is a time that is dedicated to raising awareness, educating our communities, and providing crucial resources and support to victims and survivors of domestic violence. Domestic violence has a devastating impact on individuals, families, and our entire community. The stats reveal that domestic and intimate partner violence alone affects more than 12 million people every year. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men aged 18 and older in the United States have been the victim of severe physical violence by an intimate partner in their lifetime. Children witnessed violence in nearly 1/4 of intimate partner violence cases filed within the courts. And survivors of domestic violence are 3 times as likely to meet the criteria of post-traumatic stress disorder. Domestic violence occurs within every race, class, gender, religion, sexual orientation, and socioeconomic background. And whether you are aware of it or not, it may affect someone in your neighborhood, in your church, in your school, and even in your family. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go somewhere fast, go alone. But if you want to go somewhere far, go together. And so, in furtherance of our impact in this fight against domestic violence, we must unite and come together to empower victims and foster a Rockdale County that stands firmly against domestic violence. With that goal in mind, we invite all of Rockdale to join us this Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the following simple ways. First, we ask that you follow us at Rockdale DA on Facebook and Instagram, where we will share daily information and resources to help those in need. Through our 31 Shares to Show You Care initiative, each day we are posting valuable insights, and by simply sharing these posts on your own personal platform, you can help spread awareness to those who may need it most. Additionally, we invite everyone in Rockdale County to participate on Purple Thursday, which is going to be October the 17th, that's a Thursday, by wearing the color purple. That's a symbol of domestic violence awareness, and it stands for peace, courage, survival, and honor. And it's a way in which we can show solidarity with our survivors. This simple act can spark conversations, foster understanding, and send a powerful message of support. You will also notice that on the front of the courthouse steps here in Rockdale County, it is illuminated in the color purple in commemoration of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And then finally, my office, in partnership with the Rockdale County Family Violence Task Force, we have planned a beautiful candlelight visual to honor victims and survivors of domestic violence, but we have had to reschedule that. It was set for tomorrow evening. But we are going to postpone that visual because it's important for us to, again, stand united as one in support of domestic violence victims and survivors. So please be on the lookout for that date and join us on that reschedule. I will conclude by saying that together we can truly make a difference by becoming informed, sharing resources, and showing compassion, we can help create a safer Rockdale County. So let's work together to break the silence around domestic violence and show that Rockdale County, we stand united against it.
Amen.
Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you, Madam D. Give her a round of applause again. Such a wonderful job. Each year there's a tribute and a salute, a pause, if I might say, for the awareness of domestic violence. And I have to say the level of community and civic engagement that comes out of our own local DA's office is second to none. We're so proud to have DA Johnson leading, along with her team, and the fine men and women who make up the Rockdale County District Attorney's Office. We certainly appreciate that, and the message is carried. And we've been noticing the illumination of the lights in the evening. We can see them nice and bright and purple, and purple is an outstanding color. Yes, it is. Let's give the DA another round of applause. So I'm going to create an opportunity for a shift here because I know some folks do want to exit at this point. I'm going to change the agenda, Commissioners, just a little bit here, just a little bit. We have a really robust presentation coming from the Atlanta Regional Commission work source, but we're going to ask that, Rob, you and your team just hold tight. We want to hear everything you have to say about workforce development and all those wonderful updates that you're going to bring us. But I want to yield for the people in our community who really want to express themselves through public comment. Those of you all who have filled out and completed a public comment card, instead of us waiting to the end of the meeting, I want to afford you that opportunity now for you to come out and share. Do we have any comment cards this morning?
Yes, we have a few. If we have any more, it looks like this.
Okay. And I'm going to just hold tight as we collect, because there may be a couple of people deciding to complete their comment cards, and we won't allow that. We also will allow the transition as it is already in effect taking place, and we'll get right back to our meeting here in just a second. Okay, I think there may be a couple of folks still completing, but go ahead and read the disclaimer if you would, Executive Director Rutledge.
Yes, Mr.
Please.
Chairman. So as a reminder, public comment is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Comments relative to any issues that are currently going through the public hearing process, matters that are in active litigation, political campaigning, or partisan politics would not be heard in this meeting. Speakers are to address the chairman, not each other or the audience, and are expected to conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. The use of abusive or profane language shall not be allowed. No debate or argument between speakers and/or members of the audience is permitted.
Thank you so much. And again, I want to make sure, I see Executive Director Mims may be next door checking if there's anyone in the overflow room that want to participate.
Yes,
in.
Mr. Chairman, we will check with the overflow room as well as the outside, right outside the door as well.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Our first speaker
Okay.
is Wiley Kendrick. Y'all make way, let Mr. Kendrick make his way out of there. Come on up, Mr. Kendrick.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
sir.
morning.
Good morning.
My concern was about the Biolab fire. I live within the evacuation zone and the continuing shelter-in-place zone.
Yes, sir.
And there was some stuff that kind of floated around in my neighborhood that I don't know what it is. I contacted the only people that I could get in contact with, but they never responded back to me, which was the county I believe it's the county extension service.
Yes, sir.
Because I do have a vegetable garden,
Yes, sir.
and whatever chemical came over Sunday night was the worst, I would think. It really damaged some of my small plants that had just started to grow out in my garden. And I was concerned whether or not, was it still edible? Because they are starting to come back out, but
Yes,
it
sir.
really, really, really did a number on them. And nobody never contacted me, so I don't know who do I need to contact from that point, because the county extension service never did return my call.
Mr. Wilder, Mr. Kendrick, let me first of all say thank you for coming out this morning. The fire chief is flanked right behind you. But what I want to do is, if you would, can you give me your address, please?
It's 1074 Meadowbrook Lane. It's on that card.
1074.
Meadowbrook Lane.
Okay. So we're going to get somebody out there. Chief McDaniel is here, and Chief So thank you for coming out, Mr. Wiley, and I gotta say thank you for your vegetable garden too.
Well, I mean, yes.
And I know how important that vegetable
yes,
garden is.
yes.
Absolutely. So we'll get somebody out there. The Biolab does have a debris response team they've started deploying. In fact, I've got a few text messages a few days from about less than a handful of folk who had the same concern. They woke up and saw stuff in the yard and they didn't want to touch it, and I don't blame them.
Well, I didn't touch it. I did collect it
Yes, sir.
using gloves.
Yes, sir.
I got it saved. And,
Yes, sir.
But
Well, don't you touch any more of it. What we want to do is the chief will get you connected with we have a direct number now, a direct number to their debris response team from Biolab, and they let's allow Biolab to touch it. Let them touch it.
Okay.
And we'll send them over there and let them pick it up and get it out of your yard. But again, thank you for your time this morning. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting if you like. It's up to you, but I thank you for coming out, and Chief McDaniel will see you before you exit the building.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is Mr. James Dunnigan.
Hey, Ms. Rutledge. Hey, hello. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning, sir.
I've lived here all my life, and I was here for the very first one that burned up. I used to play Biolab against them softball over at American Legion when I was a kid. For me to see the emergency workers riding up and down in front of my house, leaning out the windows, and then y'all making these women walk from one end of the street at the end of Rockdale Industrial all the way down almost to Biolab to get their laundry, tote their laundry back up the road. And the county workers riding up and down the road, not the county workers. Let me rephrase and let me get straight. The emergency workers responding to Biolab. That broke my heart to see them women walking with them dirty clothes and the people riding golf carts to get coffee. I also have a garden at 1990 and it burned its slap up. I've been taking pictures to show it progress. And I didn't see Mr. Levette, but for Rockdale County to evict somebody in the middle of a shelter in place, I was there and I watched it happen. That's just total disregard for Rockdale County residents. My son's grandfather retired. I know I'm over redneck standing up here. My son's granddad retired from Rockdale County Sheriff's Department. He's had uncles, Mr. Middlebrooks. Judge Chambers used to babysit me. Y'all dropped the ball. It's not just one person, it's collective. But y'all really let Rockdale County and City Conyers down. I hope we can get it straightened out. Thank y'all for y'all's time.
Thank you, Mr. James. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Next up is Ms. Cherie Kellogg. Ms. Kellogg.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, ma'am.
I'm also here to talk about the Biolab concerns. I have a few hard questions for the board, okay? I do believe that Biolab should be shut down. I have only been in Rockdale County for 7 years. I've lived all over Atlanta. I am just a bit flabbergasted at the history that I'm finding out about Biolab. In particular, what seems to be their neglect of soundness and safety. To hear that this happened in 2004 to this magnitude, a couple other fires, the numerous amount of OSHA violations, I am concerned, not only because they are still standing, but why are they still standing? What checks and balances are required from the board to ensure that a company that has this kind of scorecard is in fact moved from the county before there's an incident? Does the board approve their scorecard? What happens from an annual fire inspection standpoint? Why was water used with a chemical, should it burn, that you know water is oppositional to being able to actually put it out? Why wasn't there foam in the building? I just have so many questions that seems that this could have been avoided. Now, I do not live in the evacuation zone. However, my parents live here. My father lives with us. We are his primary caretaker. He is overcoming 2 types of cancer. I want to know the long-term effects. My mom, her husband are right outside of the evacuation zone. How do you determine that that line is enough and that it shouldn't go a little further? Just so many questions that I have that are not answered. Looking at social media isn't enough. Why hasn't Biolab faced the community? I have a huge problem with that. That, to me, speaks to their integrity as a company. It's lacking. But the long-term health impacts, we need to clearly understand what that means for every citizen in Rockdale. It should not be limited. I'm also concerned with the impacts on property value. You all have heard the complaints from neighbors about the rising property tax costs here in Rockdale. This year alone, 50 to 75% increase. I am one of those individuals. What does this now do to our property value overall? I'm concerned if I even want to stay in the county, being unaware of the health impacts, but now I have to deal with the reality of what this means.
Miss, I got
I'm
it.
so sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's good. But you've been with me a long time, so I got it. I got it. First of all, I want to say, Ms. Kellogg, thank you for coming out. I want to take a moment while you're still at the podium. Let me acknowledge that so many of your sentiments, expressions this morning, the 3 of us certainly share all of them.
All of them, everyone.
The first thing that you stated was about shutting them down. I want you to hear your chairman say this. Enough is enough. I've been a resident of Rockdale County for 24 years. 3 times in 20 years, this has happened. When I moved here, Biolab existed. They were already here. You pointed out several valid points this morning. You talked about neglect. You talked about why are they still standing. Primary caretaker for your father, long-term health concerns, and you talked about property values. So many people all over the county share those concerns and a whole lot more. Right now, while we're talking, right at this very moment, we have boots on the ground, teams over there still addressing the immediate concern. I want to make sure, because I want everybody to hear what I'm saying here. This is not limited to Ms. Kellogg, but I certainly do appreciate you coming out. Right at this very moment, we are still in the midst of crisis management. There is not a fire happening, but we're removing debris, and then there's chemical underneath the debris. And that has to be done in a very tedious, very methodical process so that we will reduce the possibility of continuing to have that plume, that monstrous, ugly, fearful plume that we saw looming over our county for the past 3 days. That is a concern. I want to talk about the other folks. She mentioned her mom and her mother's husband living in close proximity of Biolab. We have a good number of senior citizens. In fact, most of the population that lives in close proximity of Biolab are senior citizens. They've been there a long time.
Right.
Some of those people may suffer with respiratory challenges. It is a major concern for this board. However, our focus right at this moment, if anybody out there listening know anything about crisis management, our first priority is public safety, health, and welfare of our county. We've got to get, I'm waiting on the fire chief to call me and say, Mr. Chairman, this situation is completely resolved. All of the chemical, all of the product, all of the debris impacting this problem has safely been properly removed. I cannot start not me. Now, the folks on the outside can do how they please. My job is to do everything I can to help keep this county safe. I'm not entering into the conversation about shutdown at this time. At this time. Listen to my words. At this time. At this time, safety, safety, safety is our number one concern. As soon as I hear from the fire chief that this problem with the incident itself, the chemicals, the plume, ground zero is under complete control. Once she gives me that green light, then we will enter into other conversations. Let me just tell you, we have the EPA, EPD, Biolab has contracted with an incident response contractor. They're on site. They have provided a website. They are opening up a crisis response center in the community to respond to the needs for reimbursement, for the needs of the issues that people are having. My wife has been employed at Piedmont Rockdale 22 years. She works in the emergency room from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. These last 9 days, every morning she's come back home and told me the influx of people crowding the emergency room.
Yes.
There is a major concern. I have been on the ground at the site multiple times this week, making sure not only that our first responders have the resources they need, because they're working around the clock. And hats off to Deputy Fire Chief Chris Robinson, who's probably had a minimum of 4 hours sleep this whole week. But he's our chief technician assigned by Fire Chief Marion McDaniel to make sure that the mitigation plan is going according to our plan. I wanted to stay a minute there and talk about what we're doing, and let you know that this Board of Commissioners, all three of us are residents here in Rockdale County. We share the same concern. You heard what I said. Enough is enough. But right now, right at this moment, until I get that green light from the fire chief that says all is clear, I'm not going into another conversation until I get to make sure the county is safe. We need our schools back open.
Yes.
We need businesses back open. We need people to be able to sit on the front porch again. Mr. Wiley needs his garden to be healthy. It's that time of year. All of those concerns. We had to relocate our animal shelter because it was in close proximity of Biolab, the entire animal shelter. Then I've got residents who have livestock, horses, in and around this area. This has been a major hardship on Rockdale County as a whole. Not to mention, we shut down the government operations, court services, and all of our employees last week. We're not sitting on our laurels. We're not taking this lightly. But what we're doing first is public safety. Stay tuned, keep watching, keep paying attention. You talked about what site. I encourage you to go to the Rockdale County website, to the Rockdale County Facebook page, to the Rockdale County Instagram. You can also go to EPA. You can also go to EPD. Biolab now has a site up. We will be getting all of that information. A good bit of it is already on our site. And you're absolutely correct. And this is the last piece before I hear from the next speaker. I want to say thank you again. I hear you loud and clear. I'm taking this very, very seriously. Oftentimes in a crisis, there are multiple people talking. Well, the fire department, the police department, the sheriff's office, and your chairman and this executive leadership team, this is what we trained for: crisis management. We're in the thick of a mess. And if ever there was a time you need your leadership to rise to the occasion, we're right there. We're putting the communication out. There's so many neighborhood scientists.
Yeah.
They're popping up all over the place, neighborhood scientists. I'm telling you to listen to the proper sources. Make sure you listen to people at the barbershop are talking, people at the grocery store, the church, the neighborhood, people at the fence, at the clothesline are talking, as if they're credentialed technicians. I'm asking you to listen to the EPA, EPD, the professionals, the people who are educated with credentials to speak, not the neighborhood scientists. I'm the chairman of the county. I'm not a scientist. I am relying on content experts to provide us with the right information. And then here's the other thing. A lot of that social media stuff is hype and is purposely and intentional to rev up the negativity in the community. I have to speak to that. Stay focused. Rockdale County is resilient, and we're going to get through this, but we're going to do it the right way. Those outside entities, lawyers, companies, anybody that want to lodge a complaint against Biolab that has nothing to do with Rockdale, we're going to do our due diligence. And the first part of that is public safety. Then we'll move into some other conversation. I got a checklist of what you said, and I appreciate you saying it. I'm sure many people share your sentiments. Thank you for coming out this morning. Please stay tuned, and we'll make sure we keep you updated and keep you posted. We're praying for all of Rockdale County, and we're asking for you to continue to pray for us as well.
I will, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kellogg. Thank you. I'm preparing to call up the next speaker. I just want to say again that we hear you, and we hear you loud and clear. Every red card that I have up here this morning, I'm gonna call every name. I'm gonna allow everybody to express and to vent, because guess what? We are all frustrated. The next speaker, Leslie Lambert. Come on up, Ms. Lambert.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Leslie Lambert, 1870 Irwin Bridge Road, about 1.5 miles as the crow flies. So I have probably one of the larger properties in the city. It's 11 acres. I do keep horses on it. On Sunday, I had to remove those horses. They will not be back until there is substantial rain. That is what my vet has said. We also are trying to get, and believe me, we have reached out, EPA, EPD, GPD, the whole alphabet soup. And what we're going to need, what my vet is asking for, is raw data. Not just a summary, but raw data. Because this was put out, Georgia Department of Agriculture, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's got some contradictions in here. Okay, so it says, in one part, avoid grazing and all that till they know what it is. And, you know, as people have said, don't touch the black stuff, and thank you, we have gotten that cleaned off. And then it says the material is inert in this. How do they know the material is inert? Where is that data? And stored feed and water and unexposed water, we don't really know about the water. You know, we know about, I have Traverse Creek on the bottom of my property. Don't know. So, you know, I know you guys are doing your due diligence, and thank you, Ms. Kelly. I don't have to bring up those concerns now. But we are asking, how do we get this information? How do we get to EPA? When you call GMA, you end up in a loop, and it just loops you back to nobody. So that's a problem. Yeah, and where is Biolab? Where are they? The fact that if you go to their site, there's nothing on it. There's nothing there of use. So where are they? And I would just end this by saying that well, two things. Jackie did not come today. She wanted to do this. She is ill, and she is directly ill from chlorine. She has been put on steroids. She is taking breathing treatment. She has a history of asthma. And the only real exposure she had, because she has stayed inside, is on Sunday when we were loading and moving horses. So there's that. And the other thing is, I would argue, and I know you can't, enough is enough, you are correct, and I would argue that these are not a good business partner. They don't care about their community. They do not care about the people here. They care about their private entity. Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you, Ms. Lambert. Thank you for coming, and we'll be praying for Jackie. I heard you loud and clear. We are definitely holding Biolab accountable, and I have to agree. It is time for Biolab to take to the airways. It's time for them to do their own press conference, for them to speak to the community, for Biolab to speak to the county, and our partners are doing what we need to do from a public safety standpoint. But I agree. I share the same sentiments. It's time for us to hear from Biolab publicly, for us to hear from them. So I have no doubt that the PR firm that Biolab has hired, I have no doubt they're listening and watching this. So Biolab, if you're listening and watching, it's time for you to show up, because the people want to hear from you. The next speaker, and let me address something that Ms. Lambert said. She talked about raw data. She also talked about a direct contact. So Director Webb, I think it's really important that we're telling folks to contact the EPA or EPD or GMA or any of those agencies. It's always frustrating. Shucks, it's frustrating when you're trying to pay a bill and somebody puts you on hold, and you're talking to somebody over in another country that can't speak to you, listening to music, let alone in a crisis. In a crisis, when I need to talk to a live body in a crisis, that's not the time to put me on hold, or, as she described it, send me through a loop. I don't need to go through a loop. So let's talk to our representatives from EPA and EPD who are on the ground and let them know we need a live, warm body. Someone who can and will be responsive to the caller who's calling on the other side of the phone, so they can respond to those callers. Absolutely. So I know the Director Webb from EMA is taking notes, and we certainly do appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Next up is Mr. Kirkland Lofton. Come on up, Mr. Lofton.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
They pretty much said everything that I was going to say. Everybody's had some good information. I do have one thing that's on my mind, though, is that what are going to be the long-term effects? Because everybody talks about safety now, and we don't want to be in a county and then 10 years later, and then we find out, hey, now we got a class action lawsuit because of something that happened 10 years ago. You know, these chemicals that may seem be taken a little lightly right now, they're going to be floating around for a while because it's gas, it's chemicals, and it's going to be in the trees, it's going to be in the water, it's going to be on the grass and everything, no matter what anybody says. So I'm concerned about that. The other concern is that this is a kind of an eye-opener. You know, I'm trying to figure out why it takes an explosion for the EPA to pay this much attention to something like this. Why would they not? I mean, this place should have been on probation and everything. If it just happened, what, 2020, I believe, somewhere around that time, that it happened once before. And from that time, I think that they should have been basically watching this thing under a close microscope, you know, just to make sure something like this doesn't happen, especially since you got so many residents around. And I realized that the company was put here, I think in 1973 or something like that, somewhere way back, and where the county wasn't as many houses and stuff there or around in that time, but now the houses are here. Now the people are here. So changes should have been made to keep them under close inspections and everything to make sure nothing like this could ever happen. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that with this happening in the county to basically have an effect on the values of homes, possibly, and everything, then the other thing we're looking at is the building that's going on and everything. I noticed that on the agenda that there's an influx of developers coming from everywhere, you know, trying to get to Rockdale County. Every county around us has put a moratorium on it. And they're coming here to build and everything. I just ask that they get vetted real harshly, make sure they're building the right things. I looked at the comprehensive plan, and it seems like that it's not according to what we're doing. It's not according to what we're doing. We're building, but are we building according to the comprehensive plan? I think that it needs to be looked at a little harder and everything. So I don't know what we can do at this point and everything. They're here. But I think that from this point forward, that the people that are coming here need to be kind of vetted harshly and everything to make sure they're building things that are that are going to be helpful to our community. And that's all I got to say.
Mr. Lawson, thank you so much. Thank you for being here this morning. Absolutely. Next up is Ms. Deborah Hammond. Come on up, Ms. Hammond. Ms. Deborah Hammond.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms.
I came here to be quiet and to listen to everything that was going on. But Ms. Sherry Kellogg, she has some valid points. And you did not answer the number one question I was really concerned with. Experienced firemen, why would they put water on a chemical fire? That's my question.
So I'm not the fire chief, and in this setting...
I know, you're talking round and around and around and around, and you kept her up here extra time to try to answer her questions. But that's a valid question. Why would experienced firemen, fire people, fire workers put water on a chemical fire?
And Ms. Hammond, let me say this. You got a very good and valid question. I want you to hang tight just 1 second, because I am confident that the fire chief can respond to your question in the moment. Come on up, Chief McNain.
Good morning, how are you? Thank you, because we are experienced. So what I want to add is that when this place was open, the state fire marshal, everything that's on that property has gone to, not prior to the Rockdale County Fire Rescue, the state fire marshal. As it relates to a fire, there were gas lines, there was other things that we need to protect. When this incident started, it's because the sprinkler system activated that product, which caused the fire. We had to extinguish the fire. Yeah, foam and getting all these different mutual aids in, we had to address the immediate need, because had we not put that fire out, we've been in a much worse, because we are experienced. We know that we need to get the fire out. When we got the fire out as quickly as we possibly could, and now that's where we are. However, due to our experience, we determined that we need to get this fire out with the best product that we had, which is water. So we are experienced. And I guarantee you, we know, I've been there when this incident started at 5 o'clock Sunday morning a couple of weeks ago, and all my people have been there. It's not just a hazard to the community, but to fire personnel as well, and we're doing our very best based on our experience.
Thank you, Chief McDaniel, and thank you, Ms. Hammond. I think a lot of other people wanted to hear that answer as well. Thank you so much. Absolutely. All right, next up is Miss Christine, last name with a, yes, ma'am. Come on up, Miss Christine. Yes, ma'am. They're gonna let you out there.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the fire chief and the firemen that risked their lives to help us. Thank you very much. Secondly, I'd like to point out to everybody that 21 years ago, our roofs were all trashed, which cost you money to put a new roof on. The insurance companies raise your rates. Just be aware that your roofs are going to be trashed.
And Ms. Christine, so that everybody can hear all of those valuable comments you make, if you pull that little flexible mic to you a little bit and speak into the mic, I don't want anybody to miss what you're sharing with them this morning.
Okay, I'm saying that when this happened 21
Well, you
years ago.
started off giving praise to the fire department.
Yes, I'd like to thank the fire
You got to
chief.
speak back into the mic. I want people to
Well,
hear
let's
you.
give them a round of applause
Yes,
for.
let's give the fire
No,
department a round of applause. Absolutely, Ms. Christine.
welcome.
You're right on point.
When I saw those people in those, what do you call that thing that goes up?
The ladder. They were in the ladder.
I'd be nauseated to see them in that
Yes,
smoke. It
yes.
was terrible.
Brave
So
men and
Thank you very
women.
much.
Thank you, Ms. Christine. Go right ahead.
And check your roofs after this because they'll be trashed. 21 years ago, almost everybody had to replace their roofs. So make sure you check your roofs after this nightmare. That's all.
Thank you, y'all. Ms. Christine, thanks for coming out this morning. We're gonna check those roofs, and thank you for acknowledging the hard work of our men and women with fire and rescue. Thank you again. All right, next up is Miss Melanie Hutchison. Miss Melanie Hutchison.
Good morning, Chairman.
Good
and
morning.
everyone in the room. My name is Melanie Hutchinson. I'm the president of the Westchester Lakes Homeowners Association. We comprise about 325 households, a significant portion of whom are senior citizens. I'm really annoyed and upset by what's going on, and I'm not placing blame on any individuals or the fire chief. I was here in 2004 when the Biolab fire occurred, and it was like a mini version of the World Trade Center incident. It was great everywhere. Back then, it was kind of covered over and not much was said of it. Yes, there was an evacuation. And excuse me, because I'm being affected by this because I do have asthma-related symptoms. The challenge I'm having is that, especially in the last several years, I keep hearing this mantra, Rockdale is open for business. At what point do we prioritize the citizens of Rockdale over businesses? Because Biolab was allowed to stay here after the fire in 2004. It was allowed to stay here in 2016. And I've heard a county official, not any of you sitting here, but one of your replacements actually almost tried to defend keeping Biolab here because of the revenue that they generate for this county. Again, I ask all of you, at what point are we going to prioritize the citizens over these businesses?
Amen.
And that's it.
Ms. Hutchinson, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Next up is Kim Flakes, last name Flakes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a new resident here in Rockdale County. And when all this happened, I'm one of the youngsters. I'm only 44 years old. But the big thing you kept saying was safety of the residents. What do you consider as safety? Because the shelter in place has expired. A lot of these fumes are still flowing mostly at night. And I know a lot of people such as myself travel through that every night when I go to work or come home. So what do you consider as safety? What does safety mean to you if we still have to go through these fumes, roll up our windows, cut off our air conditioner, but it's still going through our vents in our cars? So can you explain to me what does safety mean to you?
Thank you so much. That is a very good question. I want to give you my definition of safety as I sit as the chairman of the county. There's nearly 100,000 residents in Rockdale County. When I talk about safety, particularly public safety, it's the safety of every citizen, every business person, every senior citizen, every young person. And I can't, as the chairman, I can't categorize pockets of people or pockets of the county. I have to think globally for the entire county. Right now, our concentrated focus is on the close proximity, those who live in the vicinity of the Biolab facility. That area is where the shelter in place is still in effect from 7 p.m. To 7 a.m. Safety includes everybody. Before I can enter and engage in any other conversation about Biolab, right now, my primary concern, until I hear from the fire chief that this situation is completely resolved, I'm not turning my focus to anything else but getting this situation completely resolved, mitigated all the way to completion. Now I know that we can lift the shelter in place and the community can go back to some sense of normalcy. Then, and only then, will I start the conversations about what's going to happen next. Right now, my focus is on everything we need to do to keep this community safe. And that includes bringing in those partners that we have, EPA, EPD, and other partners to help us in terms of making sure that the air quality is right, checking with our water department to make sure that we have safe water in our community. As a leader of the county, that's part of my definition of safety. It's not one person, two people, it's not any one particular demographic, it's the whole county. So that's important that you have a leader that is in tune with what's going on, so to the degree that you don't take your focus off of what's happening and what's the most important. So again, I thank you for coming out, Ms. Flakes. That's my definition, and I'm going to continue to stay on that safety focus until we get to a resolve of this issue. So I encourage everybody, particularly those who live in the close proximity of Biolab, as much as we don't want to, we need to. It's not a want, it's a need in terms of we need our businesses open. We want our businesses open. We want our young people back at school, but we first want everybody safe. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out. Darrell Leach, come on up, Mr. Leach.
Good day, everyone. I'd like to echo the sentiments of the lady that gave thanks to the fire department and you guys for doing what you got to do to try to keep this community safe. One of the things that I wanted to mention is regards to the debris that's been falling. I don't know if that's been mentioned before, but there's a lot of debris that was raining from the sky on Sunday. I still haven't, I picked up some samples, but I didn't and put them in a plastic bag because I don't know what's going on with that. I have a garden that I like to feed my family and neighbors with. I don't even know if that's safe to eat. So we're just waiting for more information. It seems like the communication piece has been very slow. I heard Chairman mention that there's some stuff on the website where they're compiling. That's good to know that they're compiling all the different resources from Biolab and EPA, EPD. So that's good to know. But I would like to know, is the communication piece going to be a little bit more shored up so the residents can be in the know because there's some long-term effects that, like the other gentleman was mentioned, that we may not even know for years to come. So, and there's some immediate effects that need to be communicated now. So far as being out in your yard, cutting your grass, tending to your garden. Is that safe to eat? Do we need to just pull that up and throw it away? So I would urge the county to continue their partnership with with Biolab and EPD and EPA, and get that information out to the people as soon as possible.
Mr. Leach, let me say also to you, thank you. And I know when you came in, we did address it, but I'm going to continue to address it all throughout this meeting and beyond the meeting about the debris removal that they've put in place over at Biolab. You're absolutely right, because I said earlier, I received a few calls myself and text messages, and we were able to respond and we'll send out folks to pick up that debris, but a lot of it came down. A lot of it is still out on the ground all over the county. I wouldn't, if it fell in my yard, I wouldn't pick it up. I wouldn't touch it. I'm not going to touch it. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. That's not who I am. And I need Biolab to respond and pick it up and get it out of there. But thank you for coming out. I do want to encourage you to continue to watch our website. We're going to be putting out even more information. One of the speakers came up early and she was spot on about direct contact. We're not having to go through the loop of information. Please stay safe. We appreciate your support to the fire department, and we're on top of this. But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Executive Director Mims, I'm going to call you up. I think this is a great opportunity for you to announce the new information that, right here, bring it to me, right here, thank you, that we have about how people can report debris, what number they can call, because what is important, that folks have the correct number. They have the correct number. And Mr. Leach, I'm about to give out that number. I don't want you to miss the opportunity here to get that number as well. And we will have this posted on all of our sites as well. But Executive Director Mims, go right ahead.
Good morning. I want to read straight from the press release that they sent out this morning.
Who sent out?
That Biolab sent out this morning. Biolab.
Okay.
Starting today, local residents and businesses can call 678-301-2359 to speak with a live representative 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Give us that number again slowly, because I found a pen and it didn't write. So I just got one that writes. Give it to me again, please.
678-301-2359.
And that number, again, Executive Director Mims, is to whom and where?
Biolab, to a live representative, 24 hours per day, 7 days a week, according to Biolab.
Stay right there just for a second. The Public Relations Department, our specialists are in the back monitoring this camera and this production. So I'm talking to the Public Relations specialist in the back. I want you to dial that number right now while we're in this meeting. If you do not get a live person to answer that number, text Chairman Nesbitt. I got my cell phone right here. I want you to text me and tell me that nobody picked up the phone. I want to test it right now. I'm fed up with Biolab. I've had enough, and enough is enough. And giving people to run around and putting them through those loops, enough. So I want the people in the back, our PR team, to dial that number right now. They said we will get a live body. I want somebody to tell me if we don't get a live body, I want you to text me and say, Chairman, no one answered. Continue with the presentation.
I just want to provide the website that they submitted for debris pickup. That's debris pickup at biolabinc.com. Debris pickup at biolabinc.com. So Biolab has activated a debris removal service for community members who wish to have fire debris cleared from their private property. Debris DEBRISPIOLABINC.com.
Do it one more time. Take a deep breath. I want you to do it again, please. Thank you.
DEBRISPICKUP at BIOLABINC.com.
Okay. Any additional information?
I believe the most important information right now is the cell phone number so that citizens can contact Biolab directly with any concerns that they have.
Okay. All right. I'm getting a response back from our. Okay. All right. Well, so I'm all right. PR technician, I know you're listening, and I appreciate the response that I received. I want to make sure you know that I'm getting ready to tell the public what you just told me. So our PR folks in the back dialed the number, and she said that she was placed on hold. And I asked her, I said, was it a live person? She says, no, sir. It went straight to an automatic music tone. Then she went on to say, they also did not give the option to press a number or anything. Now, here's what I'm saying. That's not good. Biolab, you're going to have to do better than that. We're demanding that you step up. You just told us it's going to be live people answering the phone. We need you to put a live body on the other side of that phone. We're putting this number out, and folks are going to be blowing you up all day and all night. You also said that number's 24/7. Is that not what you said?
That's exactly what their press release said.
The press release from Biolab said it's 24/7. So you either need to hire enough people or the right people and have somebody to answer the phone. I want my PR folks, we're going to move forward with this meeting. I want the PR folks at the end of this meeting, before I close it out, dial that number again. Text me when you get a live person on the phone. I need to know when somebody's on the phone live. I don't need folks in the audience. Y'all call it, but I don't need y'all to call. I need you to stay focused and get the information we're providing for you. We're going to make sure that we're on top of this. Enough is enough, and we got to hold Biolab accountable. This is nothing to play with. This is a serious situation, and we're not taking it any other kind of way. Next speaker is Ms. Rose Battle. Rose Battle. Come on up, Ms. Battle.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Nesbitt, and to the fire department, thank you. I'm Blair Austin's grandmother. My concern has been, my husband's a retired firefighter, by the way, and he now has cancer, and we were kind of getting conflicting text messaging. I've been going to the site as to whether or not we should or should not have the AC on, and it's been a week now, and my adult children are running their AC. I don't feel comfortable, especially with this situation going on, and I know that I attended the first conference where they said that the Environmental Protection Agency stated that it was not a good idea to have the AC on, even though some people say it circulates internally. It's not a great idea. I don't feel comfortable with it, and I want to know, is it okay at this point for us to be able to turn on our AC?
So I am going to, that's a very good question, and I've heard the same thing from a few other people that it's been confusing. I'm confident that our emergency management director, who is here with us, she's going to make her way to the microphone and respond to that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, Madam Commissioners. In reference to the AC, it is recommended if you were in the shelter in place to turn off your systems during that time, which we still do encourage if you are in the 7P to 7A shelter in place, because the plume does settle down at nighttime due to the dew point and the temperatures. EPA has stated that if you're on the outside, they are continuously monitoring air quality, that you are okay to turn on your AC units as of now.
Okay, and if you would also, hang on one second, Committee. If you would also, Director, I want just to take a slow moment and talk about the residents and the businesses in terms of the shelter in place, and give the time again for those who are in close proximity. Then after that, I'm going to yield to Commissioner
Yes,
Williams.
sir. So as of now, yesterday the county-wide shelter in place was lifted. And with EPA readings over the past week, it found out that the readings were okay to lift that shelter in place for the overall county. However, they still, like I said, with the plume at nighttime, it settles down over the county. And with that is due to temperature and the dew. And so in the morning when people go to work, you'll see it, bank down over in that area. And so with the readings, the EPA decided that a 2-mile radius was sufficient enough to keep those people safe, to keep the shelter in place 7P to 7A. As the temperature or the sun rises, the temperature rises and the plume lifts, so then the air quality becomes okay. And that is not stating that during that time there are high readings within the county, but there's a potential to have high readings in the county, and that's just a safety precaution.
Very good. Commissioner Williams?
Okay, so I was confused about what you said about the air conditioners. Could you
Yes, ma'am.
repeat that
So
again, please?
in the beginning, when they were shelter in place, was because the plume was floating all throughout the county. On your air conditioner, a lot of times it will feed outside air into your homes. And so EPA suggested that ACs be shut off. Now that that has lifted, ACs are able to be ran. Now, we do still encourage the people who are in that shelter in place at night, the 2-mile radius, to shut them off, because it could bank back down and you could potentially be in that area where there might be an issue.
And let me add, thank you so much,
Yes, sir.
Director. Well, let me add, if you do have, as I stated earlier, if you're suffering with some type of respiratory challenges, some AC units of a certain time frame were those that was manufactured to bring in outside air as well. Some of the more new model AC units only circulate the indoor air conditioner, depending on the model and the year that it was made. So that's something you may want to check. Every model is not the same. However, I don't care whether it brings it from the outside or circulate on the inside. If you have a respiratory problem, shut it down. I'm old school, so that's a common sense thing for me. If I got a problem, I'm not going to try to figure out whether my air conditioner is bringing it from the outside or inside. I'm just going to use my own common sense and shut it down so I can live and breathe and be safe until this entire shelter is lifted and removed. Let me say this on that. Thank you, Director. We're trying to give out as much information as we possibly can. But I got to say this. Some of this stuff, we've got to use our own brain, our own common sense in order to be safe. Are you hearing what I'm saying? This is not too different. We learned a lot of things during the pandemic. Some things are just common sense. Some of the practices that we picked up during the pandemic, we're still exercising them right now. I still don't want to shake your hand. I still rather give you a fist bump. I still don't want you breathing in my face, up in my, I need you 6 feet away from me when you talk to me. Still. And when I leave the public restroom, I'm opening the door with my elbow. That's what? Common sense. That's old school. That's an old school phrase. I'm gonna call it the next speaker. Come on, Director Webb wants to come back up.
I do want to say one thing, and the 2-mile radius is put in place because that's where it's banked down, but there is always a possibility that plume can move. So anywhere in the county. So I do want to make people aware, if you do have a high smell of chlorine, turn the ACs, off. Same thing as shelter in place, get out of the vicinity of the plume. That has not been the case lately. It's been contained to the area of Biolab, but there always is, the precautions and possibility that it could occur during the debris removal.
Thank you for that additional information, Director. Are there any additional cards, if you would check, staff, if you would check if there are any additional cards We're getting ready to bring this portion of our meeting to a close here shortly, but I want to afford everybody the opportunity to be able to express themselves through public comment. So if there's any additional cards out there, I want to give everybody the opportunity who expresses or desires to speak an opportunity to speak. However, I'm bringing this portion to a close. You take the ones, you stay out there and take the ones that's still left. Okay. And I'm going to be bringing this to a close in just a second. We've got other business we have to tend to. I'll also yield for this transition that's taking place at this time. Okay, all right. The next speaker is Ms. Tara Williams. Ms. Williams.
Thank you so much. I want to apologize for my tardiness. I heard about the meeting while watching the news this morning, and I just wanted to ask about financial assistance. In times when there has been, I look at this as a catastrophe, local government, state government steps in and assists the citizens or
Ms.
the community.
Williams, let me say thank you for coming out this morning, and I'm so glad that you watched your local news to hear that we were having a meeting this morning. I got some good news for you this morning, and based on what you're interested in. Biolab is setting up a community response and resource brick and mortar. The company who caused the fire, Biolab,
yes, sir.
They're going to be reimbursing folks and giving out funds. Biolab is going to do it. And if my wife come home with burning eyes again like she did this morning, me or her or both of us going to be standing in that line for our reimbursement too. So go on to our website after this meeting. We're going to load it up with more and more information. In fact, our PR folks are going to put a number back up on the screen, and we're going to be verifying that number again before this meeting is over. That's been one of the number one questions. I know Biolab is listening to this broadcast, and I'm glad they are. The number one question is, how am I going to get my money? How can I get some money? Where can I get a check? How can you reimburse me for a hotel stay? I lost this, that, or the other. I've been inconvenienced. Biolab has that. Right. Biolab. Right. So that number is posted back on the screen along with the email address. But we're going to verify that they have a live person. You probably heard me fussing a little bit earlier to make sure. Well, we're going to make sure they do, because I saw you calling when I was calling.
Did.
So thank you for coming. There are several small businesses or business period who are in need, Biolab, and you've caused them to be shut down.
Yes, they have.
And revenue has stopped. Their cash registers are not ringing and
Yes.
foot traffic is not coming in. You
That's
have created
correct.
a burden and a hardship on our businesses
Very
in
bad.
Rockdale County.
Yes, sir.
Biolab, we need you to come forward.
Today.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Williams.
Thank you.
Y'all give her a round of applause on behalf of all the business people in Rockdale County. Next up is last name Beasley, Q Beasley. Come on up, Ms. Beasley. And come on up to the mic, Ms. Beasley, so they can hear you. Yes, ma'am.
I am a resident here.
I can't hear you.
I'm
Pull
a
that.
resident here.
Yes, ma'am.
This is my first time coming out the house on Sunday. Since this whole thing happened, I listened to you say, use your common sense, and to me it's like ridiculous. Like, people are still sick. I am still sick. Like I said, I haven't been out since Sunday. I literally feel like I am suffocating. And to say, oh, okay, we'll take it off, we'll put it back on, y'all safe to come outside, like, it's not safe to be outside. And I don't understand that how people are just saying, oh, get a gas mask. You have senators and representatives telling people, get a gas mask to be outside. That is ridiculous. And nobody is like really paying attention to. I looked at the EPA paperwork yesterday when they submitted the real tracker, and it was still high yesterday. It was over the ppm yesterday. And then y'all had y'all meeting, and y'all still saying it's safe. Like, who is calibrating all of this stuff to say we safe out here?
So, Ms. Beasley, thank you. And I hear you. I heard the number one thing you said, you feel like you're suffocating, and I hear you loud and clear. In fact, a lady said the same thing to me the other day. Let me tell you what's part of the confusion, because you're absolutely right. There are so many different people, and some of those people have titles, and a lot of those people have not been to Rockdale or to Ground Zero, and they're sending out confusing and conflicting messages. We're here. We are Rockdale. We want to make sure that we're providing you the correct information. It's important to me that you feel safe, that you know that if we're asking that you shelter in place, if you live close proximity, that you do that for your safety. And that we can articulate a clear, concise message as to why is it okay and what is the difference in being out right now. Like right now, we're out right at this moment. So I want to encourage you to, number one, monitor our sites so that you can get the right information from us. Be aware, or perhaps should I say beware, of multiple stories or multiple narratives. I described it earlier that there are a ton of community scientists or neighborhood scientists, people who have no degrees, no credentials in terms of what they're saying. I'm relying on content experts, scientists, folks who know what they're talking about so that we can provide the correct information to our residents in Rockdale County. I applaud your effort and I appreciate you being here. There will, as you heard me state, there will be continuing more information. Once we get past this, you may not have been here at the beginning of the meeting, once we get past the point of, once the fire chief gives me the green light that this immediate situation is completely resolved, then we can move into a different direction. Right now, we're going to continue to focus on public safety and public health to make sure that people are doing what they need to do and not in harm's way. And it's our job to keep putting out the right message. And there's other people who are putting other stuff out. There's folks who are putting stuff out right now while I'm talking, right at this very moment. So you have to be careful and be mindful. There are different actors out there. And then I get it. People are emotional, people are frustrated. And a lot of times when people like that, they looking for something or somebody to put the blame on. But we have been providing the information, and we're going to continue to provide the information. We have the EPA, EPD, GEMA, the health department, the doctor from the health department. We have all of those folks. I've heard from Senator Warnock. I've heard from Senator Ossoff. I've heard from Congressman Hank Johnson. All of those folks are giving us our support, their support in making sure that we have the resources in Rockdale County to do what needs to be done. Now, there are some other folks out there grandstanding with their own agenda, doing their own thing, and they're pimping this situation. Thank you for coming up this morning, Ms. Beasley. Next up is Yolanda Brady. Bradley, come on up, Ms. Yolanda. Thank you so much.
Hello. I just want to ask a couple questions. When I first got the message, the emergency alert to evacuate, actually stay in place. It was shelter in place. Close your doors, close your windows, everything.
Yes, ma'am.
It was 4 hours after the fire had started. I had my back door open because, you know, after rain, it's very clear, the air is fresh. So I had my back door open, and I actually thought it was an Amber Alert. So, but I heard the fire trucks. I heard the aircraft. I'm not sure if it was a helicopter or what it was. And I was like, well, let me check and see what's going on. Then I get the alert. So immediately I evacuate because I have breathing issues. Right now, my throat is burning.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm feeling suffocated. Mm-hmm. I have my little nieces, her eyes are burning, and they live in Newton County. I just moved here from Los Angeles thinking I'm safe and I'm gonna be in the country, and here I am in warfare, chemical warfare, basically. So then I hear on the news that Biolab did not list with the fire department all the chemicals that were inside, and that's why, I heard this on the news, that's why the fire was fought with water at first, because they didn't know what they were fighting with, dealing with as far as what chemicals? As far as what chemicals?
Yes, ma'am.
That, and then I think this should be a state of emergency. We need help. I call my insurance company. My insurance company says, well, because we go and stay at a hotel.
Yes, ma'am.
We evacuate, we go to a hotel.
Yes, ma'am.
I just get home a couple days ago. I end up taping up all my vents, covering them with plastic, my windows, because even though my air conditioner is off, air is still coming in.
Ms. Yolanda, I've got some good news, and great minds do think alike, and you're absolutely correct. 5 days ago, I signed the document for a state of emergency for Rockdale County. If you would hang tight at this meeting, you're going to see this board actually vote and enact that all together collectively as a board. As the chief executive of the county, I've already done that. I've been in touch with the governor myself. Mm-hmm. I talked to the governor myself. So we're on the same page, and you're going to see us flow with this in just a second here at our meeting. You are absolutely correct. I encourage you to be safe and continue to monitor. As you've heard what I've said to several other folks, I hear you loud and clear. And I'm looking forward to that day where I can sit back on my patio and breathe in some fresh air. We can't do that right now.
No.
Absolutely. And okay, I see your address. I want to ask you. I see it there. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Was there anything else you wanted to say
No,
as you
just
wrap up?
I was growing herbs.
Yes, ma'am.
They're all dead. I feed birds. My birds not even coming to eat. You know, so.
Okay. Well, that's a concern, and I appreciate
really
you
is.
being out here. The state of emergency has already been signed. I've already spoken directly. I didn't wait on nobody. I talked to Governor Kemp myself.
You.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you're going to see us move with the order of business with that state of emergency just in a few moments here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yolanda. The last speaker, I got two speakers left, actually. Okay. Miss Betty Maddox. Come on up, Miss Maddox.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I stand before you again this morning
for another reason. You know, my mother used to say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. This is my sister who lived here in Rockdale County in 2004 when they had the Biolab fire. In 2005, she was diagnosed with chronic lung cancer. In 2007, she transitioned.
Ms. Maddox, speaking to the mic, because I want those Biolab people that's watching to hear what you're saying, because they're watching and listening to this, and I don't want the folks at Biolab to miss any of what you said. So speak in that microphone so the Biolab folk can hear you.
Yes, sir. I apologize. I stand before you advocating on behalf of the citizen, as a citizen of Rockdale County. We can't continue this. I speak for her. I'm angry, I'm confused. And to be perfectly honest with you, Biolab need to go yesterday. I would do everything within my power. I am also a retired education specialist from DeKalb Fire Rescue. I know what it is to be displaced. But when it hits home, you do not understand. And as a citizen, as a taxpayer of Rockdale County, we will not accept anything less than making a demand that Biolab leave Rockdale County. Frederick Douglass said it best. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will. I stand before you today. I will be here every single day that God allows me to be here to fight and stand in solidarity. I want to commend you all for doing what needs to be done, because you should have our best interests at heart. This is no joke. We pay now or we pay later. Amen. And I leave you with this to ponder. It doesn't hurt home until it hits home. How much more? How many lives do we have to lose before we say enough is enough? As always, Commissioners, Chairman, I thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Ms. Maddox. Thank you so much. It doesn't hurt home until it hits home. And again, I am really hoping that the people at Biolab are listening and watching, because Rockdale County demands answers, a response. And we need to hear from Biolab. Amen. We need to hear from them. And let me give you an update on another one of my directors called Biolab. She was placed on hold for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. She said it was answered by a live person. Biolab, I know you're listening, asked about debris removed and placed on for 2 more minutes, and a live person provided a totally different number. See, that's frustrating and confusing right there. When we dial the number that you gave us, I ought to be able to get an answer and clear information from that number. You shouldn't have to put me on hold. So Biolab, get your right customer service folks, your community response people, get the right people sitting at the phone, get the right folks in there so they can respond to the requests and the calls of the community. And we demand answers. We demand answers. Now, the government, we're doing what we're supposed to do. But it's time for Biolab to open up their mouth and do what they're, because that's where the fire happened at. I'm moving on. Thank you, Ms. Maddox. I think, if I'm reading this correctly, Kurt Allen. Come on up, Mr. Allen.
Hi, my name's Kurt Allen, and I own the business Conyers Import and Domestic Auto Repair, and it's right next door to Biolab. It's about 50 yards away.
Yes, sir.
And it's really hard for me to even get in and check the mail. Not that they're probably not delivering it right now, but if the 7 to 7 is in effect, why can't I get through and my customers get through so I can actually work on their cars and go back and reopen my business? But anyway, that's pretty much all I have. But I just would like to get back to work. And I feel bad for everybody here. I feel my problems are pretty minimal compared to other people, but thank you for your time.
Well, Mr. Allen, listen, let me say this. Thank you for taking the time to come. I've talked about it. You've been watching and listening, sitting back in the back. We certainly empathize with all of our business people in Rockdale County. You heard the young lady that came up a little while ago. Right. Biolab is responding to how they're going to reimburse folks. They have that information. You see, I'm checking the information live in the middle of the meeting that they're providing us, checking those phone numbers and those email addresses to make sure that they're in fact working and that somebody's being responsive on the other end. I want to encourage you to continue to pay attention to the county website. Okay. As I've said over and over, pay attention to the right information, the right source, so that you will get the right source, because there's a lot of people talking right now, but I want you to make sure you're focusing on the right source so you can get the right information. I don't have a time frame. Right. And if I could snap my finger and this thing could go, then we'd be back to normal. We got to do it the proper way. Businesses, we want our businesses to open up. We want our children to return to school. We want to go back to normal. But we got to get through this process. Exactly how long that's going to be, I don't know. I will tell you, we have folks on the ground, as you heard me say earlier, working 24/7 to try to get this completely done. One of the biggest challenges is that when the roof collapsed and the walls collapsed on top of the existing chemical, that created another issue. The first thing they have to do, I know you're tracking with me, they gotta get the debris up, get it out of the way safely, then they've gotta safely remove those chemicals. If you move those chemicals, based upon the education I received from the fire department, if you move those chemicals too swiftly, too fast, or in an improper manner, we're gonna create more of that plume and off-gassing that we've seen. Some of that is going to happen just through the natural movement of the chemical, but we're trying to minimize how much of that happens. And the more they can work, the better off. I'm asking those businesses that are in close proximity, please follow the orders. We want you to shelter in place. We need those businesses in close proximity to stay shut down until we can get through this. We know it's a hardship. So again, Biolab, you're gonna have a line of folks standing wherever that address. Do you, Executive Director Mims, do you have the address of that brick and mortar location yet? No, sir. Okay. If somebody can get me the address of the brick and mortar location for Biolab where they're gonna be reimbursing our citizens, I like to have that before this meeting is over, because I wanna put that out to the public so folks can go stand in line, knock on the door, fill out the application, do what they need to do for those reimbursements. So if we can get that information before we adjourn this meeting, it would be most helpful to all three of us and all of the county as a whole, because people want to know. Mr. Allen, thank you so much.
All right, thank you for your time.
Okay, I think that takes care of, Commissioners, all of the public comment. Do you all want to take a break, or do you all want to?
Take a break.
Okay, we'll take 3 minutes enough, or you need 5 minutes?
I'm gonna need 5.
5-minute break, and we'll be back. Thank you so much. 5-minute breaks. for security purposes, we go ahead and close the doors. We're going to wrap up the transition, and we're going to be bringing our meeting back to order, directors, so we can continue to move forward. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for bearing with us through the patience. Just before we go back to our business here, just before we go back to our business, I want to just call for a quick moment of silence. We've learned of an event at the state capitol that's involving one of our residents. Haven't received any solid confirmation, so I won't make out anything premature, but I think there are some serious concerns, and I'm just calling for a moment of silence. Let's do that at this time, please. Thank you so much. Out of respect for people's privacy, I'm not at liberty to mention names and all of that stuff. And again, I'm getting some reports that there's some
medical emergency.
Some issues happening at the state capitol that involves a couple of our, maybe one of our residents. And I think that information will be coming forth at a later time. I'm just not at liberty to, call out names, and that would be inappropriate at this time until we get something that's most solid. Commissioners, we're moving forward. We have a presentation now from, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for bearing with us through the public comment. The Atlanta Regional Commission, our Representative Rob LeBeau with WorkSource Atlanta, with WorkSource, a workforce part of ARC, and you can better describe who you are than I can. I got a million things running through my head. Tell them who you are and why you're here. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to talk to y'all. I know that today's been a long meeting and some very critical issues with all the public input, so I'm going to reduce my presentation. But let me assure you that you have the full presentation as an electronic copy. You also have 3 documents with a lot of economic data that provided the background for that presentation. So all of that you will have, and you can delve into as much as you would like on your own, and I'll be glad to answer questions after this meeting if you have them. So again, my name is Rob LeBeau. I'm the Director of Workforce Solutions Department at the Atlanta Regional Commission. I also serve as the Director of the Atlanta Regional Workforce Development Board. So ARC, next slide, we are your regional planning agency, your council of governments. Our vision is one great region. We have a lot of different functions and responsibilities, including transportation planning, land use planning, economic development, area agency on aging, and we also serve as staff to the local workforce development board. Next slide. Short story on a lot of the data is the Atlanta region is growing. We have been growing tremendously in both population and employment over the last 20 years. If you look at the slide up there, you can see the blue. Over the last 20 years, we have the 3rd highest population increase of any metro area in the U.S. Next slide. And then you can see, so currently we are now 6th in the country for metro areas for total population. Next slide. And we will continue to grow. So this is a forecast out to 2050. Top line is population, bottom line is employment. We will continue to grow in both population and employment, although our population is growing a little bit faster than the employment. A lot of that has to do because our aging population is actually growing at a higher rate than the other areas. So we're going to have a lot of older residents living in Metro Atlanta. Next slide. The interesting thing I want to call out on this slide is that the way we grow has changed. In the U.S. and many of the developed countries, we are below replacement rate for birth, for the number of new children being born, which means basically you have 2 parents, right? And they're having less than 2 children for the most part. So we are birthing fewer children than than we are for replacement rate. So if you look at the bottom line up there, we are going to grow in Metro Atlanta. The bottom line is births in Metro Atlanta, natural increase. The yellow line, the yellow bar is in migration. So we are going to grow mostly by people moving to Atlanta more so than having more children in Atlanta. Next slide. That's where the growth is coming. Metro Atlanta, of course, as well as some other areas on the coast. Next slide. The economy is also growing. You can see the blue line is Metro Atlanta. The bottom line is the U.S. We all had that big dip during COVID, but we recovered from our economy very well coming out of COVID. Next slide. This is what I want to talk about just for a second here, is you look at the unemployment rate in Georgia was consistent, 3.2% all of last year. It dropped down a little bit, and it's started to creep back up a little bit now in Georgia, but we are still lower than the national average for the state unemployment rate. But what's of more concern to me, and when we look at workforce development, is the U.S. labor force participation rate. This means the number of people who are either employed or actively looking for jobs. In the U.S., that's at about 62.7%. In Georgia is 61.8%, which means we have fewer people looking for jobs than the national average. And we had a lot of people who left the workforce during COVID. And what we're finding out is in Georgia, and actually if you go to the next slide, you'll see in Rockdale, that number has not come back up to pre-pandemic. And so if you look at Rockdale on the bottom where it says Rockdale labor force participation rate, you're at 60.85%, which is about 3 percentage points below Georgia now. And so some of the Rockdale County residents who left the workforce have not come back. So that's one of the things that we are struggling with as we do outreach. We need to get more people back into the labor force. Why did they leave? What are the barriers that are causing them not to come back into the labor force? And so that's, when we look at how we provide our services, what I would ask your assistance on is how do we reach your residents and how do we address their barriers so that they can come back into the labor force and help your local employment numbers. Next slide. You can see this is your current economic data for Rockdale County, the distribution of jobs. Manufacturing is number one, followed closely by retail, trade, and healthcare. And you can see it's a pretty good mix of a lot of different industries. And you can see there the highest wages, which is mining, which is very, very small in Rockdale, but there are some mining. And then IT and wholesale trade pay the most jobs within the county. Next slide. Looking at where are the job postings, you can see healthcare, either on the right, the top companies that have postings, Piedmont Health and Piedmont Hospital, and then Pratt Industries and two different operations out of Acuity. And the top occupations, registered nurse, sales, and you can see the rest on there. That tracks with the top industries, of course, that you see on the previous slide. Next slide. Okay, so all of that is to say that's some economic data, and like I said, you have 3 full reports with all this background, lots and lots more details if you want to get into it. What I want to talk about for just a few minutes is workforce development. And when we look at workforce development, that means we are trying to process and enhance and improving the skills, knowledge, and abilities of the workforce to ensure that the skills and competencies meet the current and future demands of local jobs. That's the key there. We don't want to just train people to train people. We want to make sure we are training them for jobs that are currently available in the county and in the region. Next slide. How do we do that? Through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is a federal legislation, next slide, which sets up a series of local workforce development boards across the state. So in the state, there are now 17 local workforce development areas. In Metro Atlanta, on the right, you see there are 5 separate workforce boards. The blue area, including Rockdale County, is what I'm the director of. That is WorkSource Atlanta Regional. We cover 7 counties, so we implement the federal workforce legislation in a 7-county area in Metro Atlanta, including in Rockdale County. Next slide. And the way, well, step back. Leadership, there's a board of local elected officials that oversees the work. Next slide. One of the key things they do is appoint a local workforce board. And that board is 25 people. We meet 4 times a year, and you can see it includes at least 51% private sector businesses. So employers are the primary makeup of the local workforce board. They oversee the work that we do in implementing the federal legislation. Next slide. How do we do that? So we have a series of career resource centers in all of our counties. In Rockdale County, we're located at 1400 Parker Road with the Restoration Storehouse. So we're located in that building. We were actually there before Restoration Storehouse. We've been in there for a long time. Very, very nice renovations to that building. Thank you all for working with us. We're very happy to be there. If you want to come visit us, we have our own entrance right by the tennis courts. You can either walk in the main entrance or you can come in the side door by the tennis courts. So we have a series of career resource centers. And at that location, we serve adults and youth. So we have two different providers that we contract with. So we serve our youth is 16 to 24-year-olds, and our adults are 18 and above. And anybody can come into that center and get some general services, such as how to write a resume, using the computer lab, printing out resumes, doing job searches. Anybody can do that. But if you qualify, we also have additional services. Next slide. All listed out here. I'm not going to read them in detail, but basically, and this is what sets us apart from a lot of other areas, is if you qualify, we can pay for job seekers to go get training and get an industry-recognized credential for an in-demand job now. So, and we could pay up to $7,000 for a one-year program, $10,000 for a two-year program. And it also could come with supportive services for funding for like childcare and transportation costs. So that is one of the key services that we provide out of our career resource centers for both the youth and the adults. And next slide. We also work with employers, and we have a series of programs that we can offer. The two main things we offer is on-the-job training. So if we can place somebody in a local job, we will pay for half their salary for up to 6 months. We also do incumbent worker training, which means if you have an existing company that needs to upskill their current staff, we will pay for half of that training cost up to $25,000. So those are two really important services we offer for employers. Next slide. The numbers we're looking at, you can see Rockdale County. We saw 5,400 people at that Career Resource Center last year. Adults, 164 youth. And you can see the number of employers we engaged with there, 17 employers that we worked with. Next slide. This is just a couple of testimonials from some of your Rockdale citizens of the services that they achieved or received. The two on the left are youth participants that came through and the results that they saw. And what I want to really highlight on the right is one of the employers we're working with is actually Rockdale County. The Water Resources Department, we're going to be doing an incumbent worker training program with them. And Georgia Piedmont will be doing the training, and we will be paying $25,000 to help reimburse the cost of that training for the staff at the County Water Resources Department. So that's a lot of information in a short time frame. Like I said, you've got the full presentation, you've got all the data, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. My ask for you is help us get the word out that these services are available, that they can go to 1400 Parker Road, go in the side entrance, they're there every day, and we have some great services available.
So Rob, first of all, let me say thank you, and I want to say thank you for your patience through this meeting this morning. The information that you are providing is so valuable.
Yes.
And because you rushed through and skipped through a few of your slides, I want you to reach back out to Mrs. Lee in my office.
Sure.
Let's get you back on the calendar so you can breathe and go through your presentation, because it's so much good information.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who really need the services, need to know that you're there. And I heard you ask at the end that we would help you with getting the word out. But I'm asking if you would coordinate with Ms.
Sure,
Lee,
be glad to.
get back on the calendar. We will bring you back in so that you can do a more comprehensive delivery of your presentation, because there's so many people that would love to take advantage of the services and the resources that you all provide. Thank you for the wonderful work that you're doing here in Rockdale County. I heard you say 5,400 people
Yes.
utilized and came through that office. We appreciate being a part of the Atlanta Regional Commission. Rockdale County is one of the 12 counties that make up the Metro Atlanta region, and ARC allows us to have a voice in the trajectory of the entire North Metro area, metropolitan area of Rockdale, of Metro Atlanta. So that's a plus for us, and it's a plus to be able to have these resources, commissioners, at our disposal. Commissioner Washington, anything for Mr. LeBeau?
Well, no, but thank you for
all of your hard work in our community. You know, economic development, workforce development is something that's very important to me. And the work that you all do on the ground and working with, I know you've spoken with and worked with Rita Braswell at Cresley,
Yes.
is vital to our community. So thank you very much for your
Commissioner
hard work.
Williams?
So I did have one question about medical training, CNAs,
Yes.
that kind of thing. Do you provide support for
Absolutely.
that?
And CNA is one of the primary credentials that often come through. It's healthcare, so CNA, and you can actually see Miss Aaliyah up there. Her story is she came to us and did get her certified nursing assistant credential after 5 weeks. 5 weeks of training, and she received it. CNA and CDLs are the two things that that's the most popular credentials that come through our services. And so, Mr. Chair, thank you for your leadership, and I appreciate the working with Rockdale County. You and your staff have been great to work with in all of the services we have been providing out there. And so, like I said, help us get the word out. 2 ways to do that. 2 people can join us by coming to the 1400 Parker Road or going to atlworks.org. That is the landing page for all services in Metro Atlanta for workforce, and you can start there and get all the information that your residents would need. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much. Absolutely. Commissioners, staff, now we're going to move on with the rest of the business on our agenda. Commissioners, I'm going to start with item number 4, and I'm going to yield to Executive Director Rutledge. Make sure I'm staying on track here.
So this morning, before you move to approve the agenda, if you could please revise your motion to approve the agenda as amended, since we did move public comment to the beginning of the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good.
So I move to approve the agenda as amended.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, so we're now back on track.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Item number 4, the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve.
Wait, we
No,
just
we
did
did
that
that.
one. We're moving on to item 5.
Item number 5. Thank you so much.
All right.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second for the approval of the minutes from September the 24th, 2024. Are all in favor? It's been properly motioned. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item is unfinished business.
So item 471 is rezoning case 2024-12, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 2037 Southeast Old Salem Road from AR Agricultural Residential to R1 Single Family Residential to impose conditions upon the property to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a second reading.
I move to defer this ordinance until the next regularly scheduled BOC voting session.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 484 is with Pinnacle 33 Signage Solutions LLC through the General Services Department. This is for the design, purchase, and installation of 2 monument signs. Options 1 at Salem and 2 at Sigmund Solar Lighting Package. The amount is $350,601.90, and it's 120 days from the notice to proceed. This is host funded.
I move to remove this item from the agenda as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
So now we're down to the regular agenda now, and item 499 is with the Georgia Emergency Management Agency, GEMA, for Emergency Management Agency Community Storm Shelter for the Hazard Mitigation Grant application in the amount of $153,642. This is no match, and it's submitted for ratification.
I move to ratify this contract as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions?
Yes, can we have our emergency management director come and explain to the people what this grant is?
Come on up, Director Webb. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman, Madam Commissioners. This grant was through the mitigation plan, and it's a shelter that will be placed at a Fleet facility in the back parking lot, and it'll be used for. It's a big shelter, almost looks like a sort of like a hay barn, if that anybody understands what that is. It's a big circular thing, but it'll be placed in the back parking lot of that and it'll be used for outside people who are working. If they have to shelter at a specific time during a storm, they can go to that location to shelter.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Director. Thank you. It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 500 is with the Rockdale Girls Softball Association through the Parks and Recreation Department. This is a memorandum of understanding to provide a softball program for youth girls. It's through July 1st, 2025, with 2 additional 12-month renewal options, and this is at no cost.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 501 is with Comcast Enterprise Service through Technology Services Department. This is for the Fire Station 10 cable TV service. The amount is $84.90 per month for 36 months plus $129.95 one-time fee, making a total of $3,186.35 total for 3 years.
I move to approve the contract as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions?
Yeah, I wish my bill was that low from Comcast.
Well, I'm glad the firefighters not going stir crazy while they're in
Well,
the
I
fire
am
station.
too. I am too.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 502 is with Woolpert Incorporated through the Water Resources Department for permanent flow monitoring network of the sanitary sewer system. Year 1 is $530,000. Year 2 through 5 is $490,000 with a total of $2,490,000 for a total of 5 years.
I move to approve this contract as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 503 is with InSource Solutions to the Water Resources Department for annual software subscription renewal for Wonderware SCADA control. The amount is $11,560 per year for a total of 3 years at the amount of $34,680. And it's the 3-year term through September 20th, 2027.
I move to approve this contract as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 504 is with Hawkins Incorporated through the Water Resources Department for chemical supply for copper sulfate. It's change order number 1 to contract 2022-175. This is a price increase from $19 per gallon to $19.95 per gallon, and the renewed term is through October 24th, 2025.
I move to approve this contract as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 505 is with Inliner Solutions LLC through the Water Resources Department for the sewer rehabilitation manholes and pipes. It's change order number 4 to unit price contract 2021-167, and the funds needed for October 26, 2024 through October 25th, 2025 as a renewal. The amount is $1,999,962.82, and the price increases are listed as below.
I move to approve this contract as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Aye.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. You're multitasking over there. Okay. All right. Next item, please.
Item 506 is with Georgia Power Company through RDOT Department. This is for the lighting services for the total maintenance and repair for high mast lights at Salem Road. The amount is $3,324.50 per month and $39,849 annually. This is for 2 years, then renews automatically for consecutive 2-year terms.
I move to approve this contract as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? I just want to say what a benefit the high mast lighting brings, particularly for traffic and travel in the area for security purposes. It really illuminates those intersections The ones on I-20 at 138 and Sigmund Road, they really, as people are entering and exiting out of our county, it makes a big difference, particularly if you're traveling eastbound on 20. For the high mast lighting makes a big difference with the illumination at night and after dark. So we're very appreciative of the partnership between Rockdale Department of Transportation and the Georgia Department of Transportation. And I got to take a moment to give a big shout out again to former State Representative Pam Dickerson, who championed this project many years ago and brought it to fruition here in Rockdale County before her tenure in time was up at the state capitol.
Absolutely. And our resident Billy Corey has been a big proponent of this and has helped us with maintenance and making sure that the lights have stayed on. So we want to also recognize him and his efforts for this.
All right, thank you. Did we wrap this one up?
You did.
Okay.
So as we move to the next one, 507, which is the lights at Sigmund Road, why are the lights why is the contract more expensive on Salem Road than it is on Sigmund Road?
Well, I'll call up the director. I know there's been a year or two since we put the ones up that's already there. And Salem Road is going through an overhaul by the Georgia Department of Transportation. I don't know if there's been a significant price increase since then or not, but Director.
So simply that is what you, first of all, good morning, Chairman and Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning. Simply what you're seeing is the number of lights, and so there's a ratio there for that.
Okay,
so,
that's what I wondered if there
and
were
then we're
more lights
trying to
on
upgrade
Salem.
some of the lights as they get, bring in new technology and everything too. So.
Thank you.
Okay, speak in the mic and say that clearly and slowly so I can hear everything you said, because I couldn't, that was kind of choppy.
Simply, there's a variation in the number of lights.
Okay, so there'll be more.
You have a few more, a little bit more maintenance to do at one than the other.
Got you. More lights at the new.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, item 507 is with the Georgia Power Company through RDOT Department for lighting services. The total maintenance and repair for the high mast lights at Sigmund Road. The amount is $2,135 per month and an annual amount of $25,620. This is for 2 years, then renews automatically for 2 consecutive terms.
I move to approve this contract as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 508 is rezoning case 2024-15, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 2420 Sigmund Road from C2 General Commercial to MRU Mixed Residential Uses, to impose conditions upon the property, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. This is submitted for a second reading.
Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I move to defer this ordinance until the
Thank
next regularly scheduled meeting.
I second. I couldn't get my words together.
It's
I
been
second
properly
that.
motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 509 is rezoning case 2024-16, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 1920 Southwest Highway 212, 1900 Southwest Highway 212, Southwest Oglesby Bridge Road, and a portion of 1929 Oglesby Bridge Road from AR Agricultural Residential to CRS Collaborative Residential Subdivision, to impose conditions upon the property, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. This is submitted for a second reading.
I move to refer this this ordinance back to the Planning Commission as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 510 is rezoning case 2024-24, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 10 acres of 1929 Oglesby Bridge Road from AR Agricultural Residential to C1 Local Commercial, to impose conditions upon the property, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. This is submitted for a second reading.
I move to refer this ordinance back to the Planning Commission as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 511 is special use permit case 2024-05, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended to authorize a special use permit for a private pre-K 5 school located at 2412 Southeast Ebenezer Road to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a second reading.
I move to to approve the second reading and adopt the ordinance as presented.
I second that
It's
motion.
been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 512 is text amendment case 2024-02, an ordinance to amend subpart B, Planning and Development, Title II, Land Use and Zoning, Chapter 222, Off-Street Parking Standards of the Code of Rockdale County, Georgia, as amended, so as to repeal and replace Section 222-11, Parking Vehicles in Residential Districts, to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and to refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission as presented.
I second the
It's
motion.
been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 513 is future land use case 2024-05, an ordinance to amend the future land use map of Rockdale County, Georgia's comprehensive plan as amended for property located at 4250 Southeast Highway 20 from the medium density residential future land use category to the commercial future land use category to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer the ordinance to the Planning Commission.
I second that
It's
motion.
been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 514 is rezoning case 2024-18, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 4250 Southeast Highway 20 from AR Agricultural Residential to C2 General Commercial to impose conditions upon the property to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission as presented.
I second the
It's
motion.
been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 515 is a future land use case 2024-06, an ordinance to amend the future land use map of Rockdale County, Georgia's comprehensive plan as amended for property located at 1362 and 1390 Northwest Rockbridge Road from the low-density residential future land use category to the light industrial future land use category to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer the ordinance to the Planning Commission.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item, please.
Item 516 is rezoning case 2024-20, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 1362 and 1390 Northwest Rockbridge Road from R1 single-family residential to R3 multifamily residential to M1 light industrial to impose conditions upon the property to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item, please.
Item 517 is future land use case 2024-07, an ordinance to amend the future land use map of Rockdale County, Georgia's comprehensive plan as amended for property located at 2245 Northeast White Road from the watershed protection future land use category to the medium density residential future land use category to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 518 is rezoning case 2024-25, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 2245 Northeast White Road from the WP Watershed Protection and AR Agricultural Residential to MRU Mixed Residential Uses to impose conditions upon the property to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and to refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission as presented.
I second the
Been
motion.
properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item, please.
Item 519 is rezoning case 2024-19, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 3031 Northeast Highway 138 from AR agricultural residential to MRU mixed residential uses, to impose conditions upon the property, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission.
I second that motion.
Been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 520 is rezoning case 2024-22, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 0 Northeast High Rock Road from R1 Single Family Residential to CRS Collaborative Residential Subdivision, to impose conditions upon the property, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission as presented.
I second the motion.
Been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 521 is rezoning case 2024-23, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 1529 Farmer Road Northwest from R1 Single Family Residential to M2 General Industrial District, to impose conditions upon the property, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission.
I second that
Been
motion.
properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 522 is rezoning case 2024-26, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended by rezoning 2660 Old Salem Road Southeast from R1 Single Family Residential to CRS Collaborative Residential Subdivision, to impose conditions upon the property, to repeal conflicting ordinances, and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission as presented.
I second the motion.
Been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 523 is a special use permit case 2024-04, an ordinance to amend the official zoning district map of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended to authorize a special use permit for a veterinarian clinic on an AR zoned property located at 2156 Tucker Mill Road Southwest, to repeal conflicting ordinances and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
I move to approve the first reading and refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission.
I second that
Been
motion.
properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 524 is text amendment case 2024-03, an ordinance to amend the Code of Rockdale County, Georgia as amended so as to adopt two new definitions in section 106-1 regarding trade schools, and amend section 218-1 table of permitted uses, subpart B, planning and development, to provide for repeal of conflicting provisions, to provide for an adoption date, and for other purposes. This is submitted for a first reading.
What a mouthful.
This whole thing has been a mouthful.
It is. What's your pleasure,
I
Commissioner?
move to approve the first reading and refer this ordinance to the Planning Commission as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 525 is a resolution declaring an additional temporary county holiday, Monday, December 23rd, 2024.
Just
I
makes
move
sense.
to approve this resolution as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Did everybody else say aye too? I thought I heard everybody say aye.
I think they did.
Wow.
They want to work. These are your worker
Next item,
bees.
please.
Item 526 is a resolution declaring a state of emergency for the tropical storm Hurricane Helene. This is submitted for ratification.
I move to ratify this resolution as presented.
I second the motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 527 is a resolution declaring a state of emergency for the Biolab fire. This is submitted for ratification.
I move to ratify this resolution as presented.
I second that motion.
It's been properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions?
I would like to say this. So there's been many comments today and throughout this process of why haven't we heard, or what are we doing to make sure that we get assistance. So this was the first step that we, the Board of Commissioners, early on in this process declared Rockdale County a state of emergency. And then the next step was for the state of Georgia to look at the situation. This is set up as a ratification, meaning that we've already made a decision and that we had to come and put it on the minutes that the decision was made. So early on in this process, we had made the decision that we, the Board of Commissioners, unanimously thought that we were in a state of emergency. So what we're doing now is publicly stating that we thought this was a state of emergency. Now it's up to hear this in the words of the chairman, hear this, your state delegation and your state, your GMA, and your state representatives, the governor and people not above us, but on the next level of government. So it's very important that you start talking to them also, because we've done what we're supposed to do, recognizing the state of emergency that our citizens are in.
And thank you, Commissioner, for that clarification. Commissioner Williams, any comments from you regarding that
No,
one?
I think she covered it well.
Okay.
So you had a motion and a second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 528 is an adjoining resolution. It's a resolution declaring a state of emergency for the Biolab chemical fire as an ongoing status. This is submitted for ratification.
I move to ratify this resolution as presented.
I second the
Been
motion.
properly motioned and second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Final item, please.
Yes, we're here. So item 529 is a resolution authorizing the chairman of the Board of Commissioners of Rockdale County to execute contracts with Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, Kaiser Permanente, Aetna, Delta Dental, and Unum.
I move to approve this resolution as presented.
I second that
Been
motion.
properly motioned and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We're going to move right into board comment. I'm going to start with Commissioner Williams in respect of her another appointment she has that's pressing. We're going to start with Commissioner Williams. Commissioner?
Thank you so much. It's been a busy 2 weeks since the last time we met. This last Saturday, we had our Year of the Peer awards ceremony, which is always in association with Recovery Month. Earlier in the month, we had the state recovery bus come and do an event at Grit and Grace. And then this is the culminating event where people who are in recovery, who are participating in the accountability courts, or sometimes not, they come on their own, receive awards. It's really fun to watch, and you will hear some of them say, I've never gotten an award in my whole life. And they think it's really, really powerful to them. I was going to say something else about it, but my brain has gone out. Okay, so the next thing is that I was able to attend the Council for State Government's Justice Center annual board meeting held in Montgomery, Alabama. That was intriguing to me, for one, because people were there from all over the United States.
Okay.
And so I suppose the most important thing was I am the first local elected official that they have invited to this advisory board. Because everybody else there worked at a state or federal level.
Okay.
So that was really interesting. The biggest thing that they talked about was Reentry 2030, which is a national initiative that aims to dramatically improve reentry success for people exiting prison and those under supervision. The goal is that all 50 states will sign on to Reentry 2030. 6 states have signed on now. Georgia has not been in the conversations. However, Katrina and I had a meeting last week with State Representative Doreen Carter and State Representative Kim Schofield, and I gave them information about Reentry 2030 and asked them to move that forward in Georgia. Then yesterday, I mentioned at the very, very beginning that I was down in Atlanta for Healing Arts Atlanta, and there is an ongoing work, and I took a whole lot of notes about different programs and things going on. I think one of the most significant was that in Massachusetts, doctors can write a prescription for someone to participate in a cultural or arts activity or event. And because they know that there's a lot of data now that says that the arts contribute to health. And I did some more research on it last night. They actually have arts communities that are contracted to provide those events and activities. And so it can be just that someone attends an event, or it can be that they're actually taking a dance class or participating in a pottery class or, or whatever.
Stevie Wonder is coming to Atlanta on October 16th. You think I can get a prescription for the Stevie Wonder concert? I need it.
I'll write you one. I have a doctor in front of my name.
Absolutely.
So,
I need y'all to stay focused.
Okay, we'll stay focused.
I'm trying to get the Stevie Wonder concert.
Stay focused.
So, anyway, those are my comments. I am really interested as we are looking at our new proposed budget for this next year, and I've asked for an increase in our arts and culture funding to connect that to health and see what we can do to provide some events that will connect to health. One other thing they talked about was about a poetry contest that they had, and I looked that up last night too. It's called One Poem at a Time, and they talked about 6 words. They had to write poems that were 6 words. When I got on the website, they actually had more words than that, but they were still very short. They did a campaign on childhood immunizations. I'm thinking that we need to do something like that in response to the Biolab fire, because it has affected everybody. And I think in an attempt to find connections with other people, we need to know that everybody's feeling the same way, that we are not alone in our anxiety or our frustration because we don't have as much information as we would like. And so we're going to be working on that. They actually ended up putting it on billboards, the poems with pictures and all kinds of things. So one poem at a time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Williams. Commissioner Washington.
Just to segue in, I too was at the Healing Arts of Atlanta initiative on yesterday, and it's good that Georgia is now in the conversation. Georgia rates 50. We're last in recognizing that arts is a healer, is a balm. One of the ministers at Ebenezer was one of the keynote panelists, and one of the things that he said that struck me so and resonated with just about my soul was creative therapy puts us in touch with the divine, meaning that it's divine part of God's thoughts passing through and coming to presence through creativity. So as we and Commissioner Williams start moving in a manner to put those things together in Rockdale County, I hope that those of you that have a creative bone in your body, because that is definitely not me, could...
Oh, wait a second.
Lynn?
Everybody has creative things.
Oh.
It may not be the arts, but everybody is creative, because even just organizing your home and how you run that is a creative process.
Again.
So...
I'm still working on mine. How about that? We're still coming to fruition.
You're doing it right now.
Oh, yeah. But really, one of the things that touched me was a young girl who wrote a song during the height of the pandemic, and it was a guitar session, and I wasn't as quick thinking as Dr. Williams and thinking to record the music, but at 16 years old, she wrote a song that had a guitar accompaniment about what she was feeling during the pandemic, being having to shelter in place and all of those. And this is 4 years later, and she's still being asked to play that song and perform that song, and she still is so passionate about it. So I can't wait to see what comes out of that, because I do believe that Rockdale County is in a place we've gone through so much just this year. We've had a tornado, a hurricane, and now Biolab, and so we are at a place where we need to heal collectively. Also, I attended the NAMI walk in Doraville on Saturday for mental health awareness. It had to be at least 2,000 people there walking. Lots of information. I got to speak to the Rockdale Newton County executive for our NAMI branch in Rockdale and Newton counties. Very informative, a lot of information being given, trying to overcome the stigma of having a mental health. And one of the things that touched me there was that there were people of every race, every gender, every socioeconomic class was there, because they gave us these the bibs that walkers wear, or race runners, I walked, wear, to put your why. And so there's so many different whys. My why is my husband. My why was to raise awareness, but so many people had personal stories of why they were there participating in the NAMI walk. So that's something that hopefully maybe we can get a team, you all can get a team together for next year and have Rockdale participate a little bit more succinctly in that. On Sunday, the National Council of Negro Women had their annual Bethune-Heights Recognition Program, where they raise money for all of the programming that they do in the state of Georgia. And I would like to commend Gloria Stills and Yvette Washington, our Rockdale County residents, who were recognized as Bethune Achievers, those who have given time and talent to the National Council of Negro Women in a very active way, and they were recognized at the program on yesterday. It is also breast cancer awareness, and every year I've asked that people join me in making their appointments to get their annual mammogram. I made my appointment on yesterday while I was at the doctor, so I'm asking that each one of you go ahead, make that appointment. If you cannot get in Georgia Piedmont because it is difficult, they are taking appointments at Piedmont Henry, so you can also get in there, and that's another option. Domestic violence awareness. Our district attorney has indicated that they are postponing the vigil, but we are still having the Race Against Violence, and they're supposed to be pulling up the information on the Race Against Violence but it is going to be on, she sent me the flyer, hold on. Saturday, October 19th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. We start, as always, at the Conyers First United Methodist Church, the 921 North Main Street in Conyers, Georgia. Once again, all race proceeds benefit the Project Renewal Shelter for Victims of Family Violence and the Rockdale County Task Force against Family Violence. So once again, that's Saturday, October the 19th, 2024 at 8:30 a.m. And I look to see a lot of us here. A lot of us from the county present at that event. Our hearts and prayers go out for everybody who survived and are still going through a lot of things from Hurricane Helen. I know we're frustrated here because of our situation with Biolab, but one of the reasons why GEMA is so overwhelmed is because they still have people that are calling in for GEMA from the hurricane. And we still have to be prayerful because as bad as we are, all of us still have electricity. We're not standing in a gas line. We are, even though our schools are out until Wednesday, we know when they're going back. We have had no confirmed deaths because of this incident. So as much as we are in a state of emergency, my hearts and prayers still go out for the people who are being affected by the storm. That being said, I want to thank Senator Warnock, Senator Ossoff, Congressman Hank Johnson, Congressman David Scott. All of them have reached out to me during this time of need in this county. Our fire rescue personnel, top notch. The pictures, when you see the pictures of our people standing in front of the plume with their gear on, helping to eradicate the danger, making sure that people got out, going door to door, knocking on doors. I thank you all. You all, we're Rockdale County. I've said it a million times, we are Rockdale strong. We are strong. We will get through this. But one thing we will do is hold the people that were responsible accountable. I'm not going to get into the hows and the whys and the whens, but please know that this government is for the people. Everything that we do, every business that we bring in because it's supposed to benefit the people of Rockdale County. The jobs that they create are supposed to be for Rockdale County jobs, Rockdale County residents. The taxes they pay alleviate the tax burden for Rockdale County residents. If it's the last breath I take, it will be to hold this company accountable for all of the danger that they have caused, all of the damages that they have caused. And that's all I'm going to say at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to call up our fire chief for some closing remarks and some things she feel like the community needs to know, and a couple of updates and announcements. Chief McDaniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Commissioner. One clarity, earlier when I was referencing, I mentioned the State Fire Marshal. Rockdale County Fire Rescue Fire Marshal provided me with statements. We have a complete packet from fire engineers, from principal engineers as it relates to the structure of Biolab, what those buildings can house. The primary chemical is trichlor. It has a much longer name, but we're going to use trichlor. As a firefighting method, in the event of a fire, we are to flood with copious amounts of water to reduce the fire. Why? Because of exposure explosion hazards. So that is why I want to just clarify that when we talk about why we put, it is a water reactive chemical. However, in the case of a fire, we're not to use dry chemicals or anything such as that. We are to use water to extinguish the fire as quickly as possible, and that is what we did. And that's
Chief,
all I wanted to clarify that.
Well, on that piece, Chief McDaniel, I want to say thank you, and thank you for bringing the clarification too, and also about sharing about our own fire marshal who provided the documents and the information regarding what we're doing here in Rockdale County with Biolab and all other industries. I think that is very important, particularly coming from you being the fire chief, that folks hear the right information. So thank you for that. Okay,
And one last thing, so for anyone that wants to research themselves, if you indulge me, the actual full name is, I'm going to spell it out. I'm going to do it slowly.
Okay.
All right? So for those that want to write it down and research for themselves. TRICHLORISOCYANURIC, acid. If you wrote that down or play this back, research for yourselves and you will see. But once again, when we responded to this incident on September 29th at 5 in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock, we made the best decision on what we were encountered, and we're continuing to do that today. Now with that, I want to move to something different.
All right.
Last year, Rockdale County Fire Rescue paid honor to Breast Cancer Awareness Month with the wrapping of our pink fire truck. We got such a great outpour in the community. People were calling, I want to go sign a fire truck, but if it's on a call, that wasn't possible. So this year what we're doing is Fire Station 3. We are wrapping the bay door. Same principle. 3 doors will be wrapped in pink, as seen here. And you will be able to go by and sign on the sign the doors, acknowledging if you're a survivor, if you have a family member or someone that succumbed to breast cancer, you'll be able to pay honor to them by signing the bay doors at Fire Station 3.
That's a great idea,
Where
a
is
great
fire-
opportunity for community and civic engagement, people to not only sign the bay doors, but stop by and engage and talk with one of our local firefighters. They love visitors. And if you happen to go by while they're cooking, boy, them firefighters know they can cook. So you can stumble up on a good old meal if you show up at one of them fire stations. So I might slide in there and sign one of them bay doors and get some of that good old hot water cornbread and some chili they might be cooking up in the kitchen. And then that's great news. Chief, I've never been a firefighter, never driven a fire truck, don't know anything about it. I put on a Scott Air Pack once upon a long time ago, but I don't have the authority to speak on the tedious, treacherous, technical work of a fireman, and it's not for anybody. So I'm not going to do what they call in sports Monday morning quarterbacking and talk about shoulda, coulda, and woulda. I'm glad that we have men and women here in Rockdale County Fire and Rescue who are trained and dedicated to the citizens of Rockdale County to be brave enough. That cloud of, I call it a monstrous plume, it was ugly and scary as all get up, and I still see the vision in my head of the extended ladder truck with the firefighter on top of that ladder extinguishing that water down into that plume, and I'm so glad you clarified that with your explanation.
Yeah.
That's why you are the fire chief. Let's give Fire and Rescue a wonderful round of applause.
And one last thing, Fire Station 3 is located at 2450 Old Salem Road. That's 2450 Old Salem Road, Conyers, Georgia, 30013. It is being wrapped today, should be completed by the end of today, and ready for Rockdale citizens and anyone that want to go by and honor anyone battling with breast cancer.
October's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Commissioner Washington made mention, you're highlighting it through what you're doing at the fire station. It's a big deal. We're going to be doing our own pink out here later this month, as we normally do each year. Keep up the good work. Chief, as you've heard me mention multiple times throughout this meeting, I'm waiting on that call for the green light. and I will be alert until I hear from you that we are all clear of this mitigation, this immediate incident that's taking place over at Biolab, so we can begin to move in some sense and state of normalcy here in Rockdale County. In the meantime, I know you got a lot of work to do, and thank you to all of your folks that's doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Director Webb, our EMA director. Come on up, Director Webb.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
So to follow with Chief McDaniel, we are on day 10 at the incident at Biolab. Operations are continuing 24 hours a day. Those consist of fire rescue, Biolab, EPA, EPD, GHD, Public Health, GEMA, Red Cross, Rockdale County, City of Conyers, Water Resources, Rockdale County Sheriff's Office, and Conyers Police. I want to encourage everyone to, like Chairman, you have stressed, be patient. This is a precise and very step-by-step procedure that has to take place to remove all this debris. The businesses that are in the area of Black Lawn, west of VFW, down Dogwood, and Olympic Court have to remain closed. They're pretty much right in the work area, and that plume is sitting on top of them, and it's just the safety precautions, that no one needs to be in those facilities. And I know we're working now that we have Biolab up and running, that they can reach out to them for reimbursement, what they're going to go with. But that is the reason those places are closed right now, because they are in the heat of the debris, and no one needs to be in that area. As we continue to move on, the county shelter-in-place was lifted besides the 2-mile radius, which you can find on the Rockdale County government's website. You can type in your name, and it'll pull up and tell you if you're in that zone or not. As well, you can reach out to Rockdale EMA at 770-278-8300, and they can identify your street as well if you need assistance with doing that. Through the rest of the county, like we said, this plume is still there. If you go out now, it's not going to be it's not real heavy, it's not dark, it's light colored, which is a good thing, but it's still there. And with weather conditions, it can always move. Depending on where the wind's blowing, it could go across the county. So I just encourage people to be visible. If it comes your way, you get a strong odor of chlorine, just get out of the vicinity of that plume. Again, GHD and EPA are constantly monitoring the air to make sure that we are okay. We get reports consistently throughout that, so if we ever had to make another decision, we had that information. But I want to assure everybody we are getting reports from EPA and GHD on the air quality. Again, we're moving through this together. Everyone just stay tight, stay together. We were working together, and that's about where we are.
Director Webb, I want to say thank you to you and all of the partners that are located inside our Emergency Operations Center during this crisis. Your leadership as the EMA director has been proven second to none. And I don't know when you slept, you just like the rest of several people, but your leadership has been constant and spot on through this. We appreciate this. You had about a few minutes to catch your breath from Helene, about a day and a half, and we went right into the Biolab disaster. And now we're also bracing for the influx of evacuees from Hurricane Milton, which is a Hurricane 5 in Tampa. We may not get the weather impact, but the evacuees are coming up to North Georgia. Don't know if they're coming all the way to Rockdale or Conyers. We did have people here doing hurricane and tropical depression Sandy a few years ago, brought people up, and we opened up some of our shelters. So you got a lot of things going on. Again, I talked about the Monday morning quarterbacks. A lot of people, even if you did this work 20, 30 years ago, the strategy of executing this work has completely changed. Firefighters don't ride on the back of fire trucks anymore. Policemen, law enforcement is different today than it was a gazillion years ago. Teachers don't teach like they did in the 80s and the 90s. Technology has changed the game. But communication is essential and important, and we want to encourage people to stay tuned and, as you stated, to be patient. Thank you for your leadership, and we look forward to more updates as they are made available. Ladies and gentlemen, I put information, we now have the Biolab number back up on the monitor. One of the things I've asked our specialist with public relations, and she said that she did call the number back. It took about 15 minutes before them to answer, but they answered, and they did give some concise information. So that's proof positive that, guess what? Biolab is watching and listening to this broadcast. That's good. And we need them to listen and watch this broadcast because people need to hear from Biolab and they need a response from them. I am so glad that so many people came out this morning and to participate in public comment. This county is frustrated. There's a lot of emotions. And as soon as I get that green light, as I continue to say from the fire chief, we will move, as you heard Commissioner Washington echo those sentiments, we're going to move in a different direction. We cannot be held hostage by any company. The air quality of our residents is very important. Property values, very important. Businesses opening and operating, very important. Schools opening so kids can get their education and activities, critically important to our community. We're going to stay on top of this. Thank you every speaker who came out and contributed and expressed their sentiments about how they feel. We will continue to keep you updated. Please adhere to the shelter in place, especially if you live in close proximity of Biolab. Check on your most vulnerable population, particularly our youth and those suffering with respiratory problems and issues. Stay away from the community and neighborhood scientists. They're all over the place. Be careful and mindful of social media and all of the hype and the negativity. The devil is busy. So yes, the devil is busy out there. So we're going to continue to keep working, as you've heard the commissioner say. Thank you to the Conyers Police Department, Rockdale Sheriff's Office, Fire and Rescue, Public Relations, EMA, EPD, EPA, every agency, GEMA, all of them, everybody in the alphabet soup, and all of those congressional and senators and federal people who called and sent aid and offered, extended their hand of help. Rockdale County, please be careful.
Also, when I got there Sunday, we had Henry County on board helping. We had Clayton County, Newton County, all of the other agencies that came out to assist us. We thank you all for being a good community partner, and all of the volunteers that came out, people that are sending things to the shelters. We appreciate all of that. Thank you so much.
And in closing, don't forget, please monitor our website because we want to make sure that the information for the Biolab Resource Center, Biolab has committed that they're going to be reimbursing people. Biolab will be reimbursing people. Biolab will be reimbursing people. Contact Biolab for the reimbursement and find out, can Biolab help you? I want to make sure that information, I'm going to overstate it because people are calling us, and some people do think that there's a check line over here at the county. There's not a check line at the county. This Biolab is going to be doing the reimbursement. Biolab has held this county hostage for 10 days now, and we're expecting them to come through. So pay attention to all of the information concerning Biolab. I want to do something just a little different, Chief Sanders and Executive Director Rutledge and Commissioner Washington, before we close out. Director Hammer, if you would make your way to the podium. One thing about the Rockdale County directors, they stay ready. Absolutely, they stay ready. I'm going to ask Director Hammer to close us out in a word of prayer. I know he's a praying man. Anybody with 10 kids got to be praying all the time. Absolutely. A praying man. I'm praying for you with that many. But seriously, we would like for you to close our meeting out. And right before you do, I'm going to ask the correct procedures. Executive Director Rutledge, is there any need for executive session this afternoon?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Chief Sanders, any closing remarks from you?
No, Mr. Chairman.
It's all in your hands, Pastor Hammer.
I knew I'd regret that earlier. So, all right, thank you very much. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I just come to you today. We're in a state of emergency in the county. We have people that are hurting. We have people that are damaged, people that are suffering. We have a whole lot of people who are helping, who are working or come together as a community. And we just ask for your mercy, for your grace, for your patience, and just to bless all of those hands that help out, the hearts that come together, and the minds that are in agreement to come together for the unity of our county. And we ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Be safe, Rockdale.